All right, so I finished Mafia: The Old Country, and I have a lot to say about it because it is short, it is kind of awkward and not good in spots, but I still think you should play it. I mean, you should at least play it at some point on your price point if you like these types of games. Story games that really don't engage you too much, they don't ask too much of you as a player, but they want to put you through a fun ride. I totally respect, like, some people, these games aren't for you. You need more stuff to do in your game. I totally understand. But for me, every once in a while, I like a chill out kickback game. And that's what Mafia kind of turned out for me because I played it slowly over time in between like these more hard, challenging, intense games I was reviewing. So Mafia was kind of like my kickback game at the end of the day when I wanted to just roll through the Sicilian countryside. And it totally worked for that. $50 US price point for this. I'm glad that they have a lower price to reflect and acknowledge that it is a shorter game that is lighter on content, but I still feel like I overpaid a little bit. Still, what I got was something I was ultimately, when I finished it, I was glad I played it. You've probably heard this from other reviews at this point. I'm a little late, but the stealth is extremely repetitive. It is straight up not good. There are a lot of baffling design choices in this. The shootouts I thought were fairly decent, but they were few and far between. Just a few action moments here and there. And a large, beautifully created open world that the game completely shackles you away from it. It doesn't let you just kind of go out and mess around. It doesn't give you reason to, despite kind of implying it will throughout the game. It kind of just baits you along and you never really get to do anything with it. And that's a shame. And I say that because like I loved Mafia 1 Definitive Edition, a game that gave you a beautiful open world, but also didn't let you wander around it too much. Mafia games are kind of like that, except 3, which I also liked, but that gave you open world busy work that was just too repetitive. So I'll probably contradict myself like from game to game with this, but I can't deny that I played through this and I had fun for a couple of reasons. Number one, the setting. Dude, look, I'm always going to give a game a bit more credit when it does something I haven't seen before. Just like how I loved Assassin's Creed Origins for taking place in ancient Egypt. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle letting you like walk around the Vatican. Hell, the Warriors game letting you walk around like that like 70s grimy Coney Island. Like just games that give me a little something, let me kind of play around in a place that other games really don't. And here with Sicily, it really, really worked for me. A beautifully rendered, gorgeous Italian countryside that, again, you can't interact with too much. But the early 1900s, you have some cars puttering around, you have people on horseback, you have people in shops, people tilling farms, people sitting at a cafe table in front of their little house, just having a tea or whatever. All those little details just made me feel immersed and really made me enjoy my time here going through this little adventure. There are moments in the game where you have to, because it's a surprisingly large map, there are points in this game where you have to drive from one end of the map to the other, usually with some character dialogue and stuff like that, some music, but it's about enjoying the ride. And I did because the locations are so varied. The little towns, the little houses, the little farms you just drive past all felt kind of like they were handmade, hand-built, which I appreciated. And the game often gives you the option to skip ride. Like it'll a little button that says skip ride and just get to that location. And I was like offended. I'm like, why? This is part of the game. The part of the game that you built is enjoying the ride, and I don't want to skip that. Now, before I keep yapping, this video is sponsored by Vessi. If you don't know, Vessi provides dependable, comfortable, reliable footwear that's also 100% waterproof. Look, I've been talking about these for years, but they really are my go-to. They're at my back door, ready to go. And with summer wrapping up, but still having a lot of surprises, it's been raining a ton. You never really know what's gonna happen. And when I take my dog on a walk or anything, I'm throwing on a pair of these bad boys because you have the flexibility, the versatility of getting wet, but like they don't feel like waterproof shoes. They're just great. Check out The Weeknd. No, not the famous musician, this pair of shoes. This is like their dependable go-to that they've had for a long time now. Lightweight, comfortable, casual, but like all their footwear, just 100% waterproof and good to go. All day comfort with The Weeknd and all the other shapes, colors, sizes, and varieties that Vessi has. Whether you're an outdoorsy person, a city person, you're at work, you got it. We've talked about Vessi a lot, but what some people don't realize is that you have a 1-year warranty on these shoes and worry-free 30-day returns, so you're covered for every journey. You should check them out. And if you want to, all you got to do is click the link in the description down below or head to vessi.com/onjake. When you click that, you get 15% off your first pair. Again, that's vessi.com/onjake. There's a QR code up here. Check it out for 15% off your first pair. Go get it. And big thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video. But again, it's literally representation. It's showing a location that I haven't really spent a lot of time with in the realm of video games and really only get glimpses of because my wife went to Italy once and it's still all she ever talks about. And I'm obsessed with The Godfather 1 and 2. And some of the coolest parts of those movies are, of course, in Sicily. And I just loved it for that, for a lot of the hand-built nature here, like a lot of really incredible set design, interior design. Don Teresi's manor, the mob boss's manor, looks absolutely incredible. This like little dumpy apartment you get looks great, realistic, believable for the time period. Again, it's just the actual playing for me was enough to keep me engaged, but I'd say barely because again, it's like it does everything once really good. The stuff it does once-ish, it does really well. There's like one good cinematic fight. There's like a good cinematic foot chase, a good race, a good car chase, a good horseback action sequence. All of those are great. Anytime you have to do something more than once, like a knife fight 1v1 or stealth, it just felt so lame and uninspired. And to me, it kind of feels like they got the bones of the game. They got the story. They got a great story, a great world, a beginning, a middle, and an end. But then they ran out of time to really flesh anything else out in terms of either gameplay concepts or using this world in any more interesting ways. Some of the good sequences, you're chasing, you're riding, you're sprinting through towns and countrysides and villas that look like paintings. And I just, again, I couldn't really get enough of that. But also, it just has cool shit. In terms of a story, I think it was a somewhat predictable story. I very much could see where it was going. Maybe it's because like my great-grandparents literally like talked about shit like this. But it just was like a good old kind of Romeo and Juliet-ish without spoiling type of story, a little bit of like a fantasy, but with the real world crime grime in it. What I think worked the best was the characters. The main character, Enzo, perfect archetype for these types of games, an ambitious young man. Not too much to him, but it's really all the surrounding characters. The love interest, but also the mob cast here works really well. And in fact, because the game was too short, I actually felt like we could have got a lot more time with all of these individual guys that are like their own characters. There's like the curmudgeon-y older guy. There's, of course, Don Teresi, the mob boss here, incredibly convincing, really cool, really scary, really layered, a great performance. He should have been given more, but he didn't feel like he was just like doing a Don Corleone impression. He felt like his own person. And honestly, the stuff, like the conflict in the game, especially with him and like ideas of family, just really worked. It felt very believable. But like it had that whole good mob cast. Again, like how a Godfather will have a Tommy Hagen, Luca Brasi, Clemenza, Tessio. You get all those types of guys in this game. Not aping them, not just trying to do carbon copies of them, but just a colorful cast of different guys that all kind of have their own different things. Luca was my favorite. The guy who kind of seemed cool, collected, had his head on his shoulders. Seems like he maybe had a bit more of a moral compass. Then, of course, you had like lovable, goofy guys like Cesare. Like really characters that just stood out. You remember them after you beat it. That worked for me. Them and the world building. You get a little bit of a glimpse in terms of like the different classes of this life, the types of people, how they treat minors, how they treat workers, how there's like mentions of like socialism, there's mentions of worker strikes and unions, the rise of the automobile, doing business dealings with the United States, like just a lot of stuff in the background kind of filling things out in cool ways. Little well-written moments that work really well. This isn't spoiling, this is like a pretty early moment, but like the debt collectors letting a farmer like act tough in front of his son first, like fight the debt collectors. Then of course, when the child leaves, then the real business goes down. But like the fact that the mob guys had that compassion and gave that guy a moment as like almost like a sign of respect. Cool little interesting layered bits like that. But also just the representation of the mob family, this mafia itself. These families, the Teresi family, the Teresi clan in particular, never really referenced as anything other than, and I quote, our thing. Multiple times in the game, it's referred to as people can't know about our thing, this thing we have going on. And I like that. I like that like vagueness to it. It's not this overt thing where they're like, we're the mafia. That's right. That's what we do. Because it's not really that black and white. They're people in this world, in this country, doing what they can, and yeah, definitely making some murky moral decisions. But what I liked is that, like, with the performance of Don Teresi, with his eyes, with his performance, with his face, with his voice delivery, you get, honestly, like, you get that he can be scary. It's someone that, like, you want to trust, you want to embrace, but you also can be very well aware that you don't want to get on his bad side. And I thought he was really effective. And again, I wish there was more of him, but talking to him is actually scary. Getting kind of initiated into their group, into their thing, was a scary, tense moment. And a lot of that worked with the music, which throughout the game I found to be incredible. Not overly done, but a lot of haunting music, lingering like string instruments, and just good subtle bits here and there. There's also points in the game where, like, you know, the mafia, it's cool, look at all these cool guys doing things, hustling people for money, but then there are moments where the game does serve as a wake-up call, and it does show something horrific, and you realize, oh, that's right, these guys are criminals, they are doing bad things, and this isn't this romantic thing like a lot of people like to make it be, like, oh, the mob, oh, it's so cool, mafia guy. They do very terrible things. And when the game does that, and when the game wants to kind of like abruptly pull away the romanticism and show the horrific nature, I love shit like that. I didn't mind the shooting. I thought the shootouts had a couple of good sections. It's like workman-like, serviceable shooting with dumb enemy AI, but like, I like the set pieces. I like shootouts during big cinematic moments and stuff like that. I think they worked well enough, but everything else kind of left me like, okay, this kept me busy. But again, I still felt like I was glad I played through it. I wish I spent a little less money on it, but I'm glad I played through it because I liked the tale. I liked what they told. I would like to see more stories set in this time period. I'd like to see a Mafia the Old Country 2 in some way, shape, or form. Of course, a lot of players have complicated histories with games like this. Like, for one, I praise The Order 1886, a brutally short game that was cut short, but showed me something different, was cinematic, fun, and yeah, Mafia, not quite as fun, not quite as gameplay intensive, but still, it showed me something different. It represented something to me that I haven't seen represented in games like this, the Sicilian countryside. To kind of live and play pretend in this world a little bit, as much as the game didn't want me to go out and explore it, but to be able to just kind of slowly walk around, take screenshots, capture video of these towns, of these villas, of these seaside spots, of these mines, of these worker factories, the horse races, the car race, all that stuff, I just was hooked. It starts slow. It took me a little while to get into it because the opening, I think, kind of sucks ass. I get what they're doing. In terms of like historical context, I found it interesting from that standpoint, but as a game, it took a while to really engage me. The first couple of times I sat down to play it, it didn't really hook me until I started to really get to know these characters, see more of the countryside, and really get into the story and see where it's going. Because for a while, it felt a little meandering, but when it picks up, it picks up, and I had a blast. I've wanted a game like this for a long time. It is not perfect. It felt like they ran out of steam, ran out of time, ran out of money or something, but I'd say experience it at some point. If you're like me, you love movies, if you like, I don't know, Italian stuff, you like crime dramas, you like a little bit of romanticism, you like a little bit of like a fairy tale in a brutal real world setting, I would say check it out at some point, because again, it's a game where the whole time I'm playing it, my reviewer brain, I'm like, why did they do that? This is baffling. Why did they choose to do this here in terms of gameplay stuff? I still ultimately walked away glad I played it. So that's really just, I go on gut feeling. That's where I'm at. So that was me yapping about Mafia. I want to know what you guys think. I should have put the context too. I just really enjoy this franchise for all its flaws. I like that they commit to stories more than anything. Like, the storytelling is the main goal. Mafia 3 kind of faltered on that. I still kind of like Mafia 3, but like, when they just focus on the stories, they always really seem to have that figured out. There's a reason why people still remember Mafia 1 and 2, and seeing little references and catching things like that to that world hits here because they get it. Mafia 1 told a cool story. It wanted to really emulate the Mafia movies. And I think the franchise has kind of grown beyond that now in some interesting ways. It's trying to do different things in that sandbox. But again, like I said, I could keep yapping. Let me know what you think about Mafia. I'd love to know your history with the franchise. My first was Mafia 1 when it was ported to console. I think they ported it to Xbox. It ran like dog shit, but I loved it. Let me know if this is your first Mafia game, if you're just turned off by this not having enough gameplay, or it's just too short. I completely understand, but again, if you can get it on sale or something, maybe check it out at some point. Let's talk about Mafia, the old country, your experience with the old country, maybe even the actual old country. Hit me up in the comments down below. Of course, if you want to yell at me directly, you can find me on social media, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Instagram, all those places. But I think that's it. Have a great day. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.